Today we have a video wrapping up a few different discussions that have gone on over the last week or so on this channel. It's particularly funny because what happens at the end, and that is why I say we're wrapping into multiple conversations here, because if you guys have not been following the tank discussion, you should definitely catch up on it. TLDR, they are nerfing the ability tanks have to kind of do what we're going to show in this video. At least that's what Blizzard thinks they're doing. I would not agree that they have successfully done that. But yeah, there's multiple videos on this channel now about those tank changes, so you definitely want to catch up on that before you start watching this. Regardless, the funny part about that conversation is that there is this really weird us versus them conversation going on within that community discussing that. Seems to me like a lot of people kind of saying that if the tank is too strong, then they're not as valuable. I think honestly a lot of healers saying, good, the tank should be nerfed, they shouldn't be the strongest player in the group. Obviously we talked about this, we debunked this idea in the previous videos. The tank is where all the damage comes through, so he cannot get nerfed in any way without you getting nerfed too. If the tank is harder to heal, then you as the healer have to work harder. If the tank can't hold threat, then the DPS have to work harder. Everything gets worse when the tank gets nerfed. This is not something any sensible player should ever want, but if you were going to make a case for it, you might see why a lot of players, especially at the level we're going to show in this key, are trapped in this mindset simply because they are not understanding what's happening, and combined with some, frankly kind of selfish and maybe not normal gameplay that Blizzard would expect to unfold in their dungeon. So let's go ahead and take a look at the full key. We'll start with that, and then we'll look at what the actual topic of conversation is going to be at the end. So this is going to be an Algeth'ar 10. We open with like the, I guess, standard, especially at this level, just be really, really aggressive in the start here, even though I don't really think this is worth doing, especially if you're not going to be bloodlusting doing it. I actually find this quite dangerous, and I think this is mostly because I have trouble moving out of the swirls and doing the job I normally do as a tank and a streamer while doing it. I don't necessarily know how much time you gain here versus just splitting the two packs up, but I do imagine this is like a big risk versus reward moment in the key. And as you see, because of the trees there, he is actually going to go ahead and get disoriented and then get chained into multiple disorients. So that is how we start the key. And this is what I'm saying about this area here. Like, yeah, I get it. It looks good on paper. It's a big pad moment. Everybody likes that moment of kind of dopamine flying at them from their big DPS numbers, but it's dangerous. It's potentially wasteful. You know what I mean? Like, depending on how you approach Bloodlust in this dungeon, I feel like it could be potentially wasteful. And if the tank dies here, it can really be a huge hindrance to the timer in this key, where this timer is very lenient. Usually it's not something that I feel like you ever need to stress out about. So we come to this boss. This is where they're going to use Bloodlust. It is a tyrannical week, so definitely want to be lusting on the bosses one way or the other. I do not think this is the boss that, Bloodlust is the most valuable on, but it is very difficult as a tank. We also have Spiteful this week, so there's kind of a little bit of extra combat. I think that's kind of leading him to fail to get threat on these mobs when they come down. Warrior does what he does best and just randomly like pulls threat on every single mob instead of letting the tank get it. So he's going to die. That is now their 4th death in the dungeon. The timer is, I would say like 8.5 minutes through the split. Doesn't look great for a 10, but I don't really know because I never really run this route. So doing Croth without Bloodlust is basically like the choice you make by lusting on the tree boss and doing this route. And I think this is definitely one that you always want to Bloodlust, but that's up to you guys. So you can see the DPS chart. Honestly, like, yeah, nothing special, especially for a 10, but the one guy is like doing substantially better than another guy, and I guess that's grounds to comment on it. There wasn't a single death on the fight, like literally no mistakes on the encounter whatsoever, actually no mistakes whatsoever. But on the way over, the monk is going to just type hunt DPS. He accidentally types it in say, and then later is going to type it in the actual party chat, because obviously he wants the hunter to know that he thinks his mediocre DPS compared to everybody else's mediocre DPS is too mediocre for this group that has had no issues on any boss. No DPS checks failed to be, like, nothing going wrong whatsoever. Seemingly revolving around the last pack, the shaman is now going to say something. This is actually quite funny to me. He says, mate, stop fucking pinging it in party chat. I have no idea what he's referring to. I can only imagine he's referring to the affix. I do not see pings on the screen. Here's the pack prior to when he commented, so I assume he's referring to this. We have the left one just gets interrupts, but then it eventually does get CC'd, and they're both handled. The shaman does like use Hex on one, and the other one gets paralyzed. No actual issues, but I don't see any actual pings being used. So we get to Vexamus. We talked a lot about this season as well. Going to Vexamus last means you have the maximum highest possible battle res count for it. This is a boss that almost always kills somebody, especially on higher keys, and it looks like you will always have lust for it. So you're basically choosing like which of the two bosses you want lust for. Perfectly strong choice to do it this way, I'm sure, but one way or the other, I would say get this boss out of the way, because you're going to have a lot of deaths and you're going going to have a lot of what happens here happen. And, you know, you now wasted 20 minutes of time versus, you know, 5 minutes of time if you come here first. So we're collecting the orbs here as a tank again, especially Blood DK. You can AMS these and it won't even put the dot on you. And as we are doing that, we see like some very strange collateral hit here. Bombs are going to come out. We're going to soak them again as a tank. You can AMS them. Blood DK really good at this mechanic, but you should try to be getting a lot. You can kind of see the monkeys, that like weird ghostly red character, and then all of a sudden he does that, and then this is the monk here. Okay, this is the tank. I know it's a little blurry, but this is where they're at right now. So the tank has just soaked one of the orbs. Now he's going to continue to move and soak this orb, and then for some reason this orb is on this monk's radar, and he is going to roll from all the way to one side of the boss all the way to the other side of the boss to try to get the orb, even though the tank is already over there. And this is during the frontal. The frontal is now beginning, and the tank is, you know, basically just going to return his position. I would not say he's actually moving this frontal in this case. This is a very normal kind of elastic behavior where you go back to where you were to keep a boss in a stationary position as a tank. And in so doing, the monk just like kind of follows him. I mean, again, both of them are kind of doing that same thing. This causes the monk, who commented on the DPS before for absolutely no reason, to now say follow Nasi with one L, Naci. I have no idea what he's trying to say here. Just after all these years of pugging, I feel like this guy is blaming the tank for getting him killed. I don't know exactly what else he could mean, honestly. Like, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but what is follow? What are we saying here? I have no idea. And we, like I said, we know this guy's prone to tilt, so here's the results. The hunter gets hit by a swirl or something like that. The guy's up, and he is also going to get hit by a swirl. And then again, he is going to type, while he is now dead after taking a res from dying to something stupid, he's going to type tank stop follow, seemingly confirming like my original thought is that he is blaming his deaths on the tank. Take a look at this whole sequence again. The guy's dead. We're gonna battle res him. You know, that's him battle resing him. And now as you see, he's over in the corner of the screen. We're gonna kind of lose sight of him, but that's him dancing around. Here's the character here. It's gonna flip up top of the screen, and then it's gonna reappear here, and you're gonna see him actually get hit by the swirls there. So yes, this guy is basically now rolled into his death, and then kind of in that aftermath, we lost 2 DPS. Okay, so pay attention to what exactly happens here. At the end, the hunter who died on the fight, he was also the guy who's getting like called out for his DPS, which is not even that low. He is going to take the res, and then he is going to leave. This is why he sends this to me. Okay, this guy leaves with let's just say 8 minutes. Do you think 8 minutes is enough to finish this dungeon in time? To me, I would say yes, especially on a 10. I think they would have absolutely no problem with it. Bloodlust is going to be a little tight though, because of the way we chose to do the route. Bloodlust may not actually be up, so this is one of those situations where we're unsure, like, did the guy leave out of shame for dying so much? People maybe are harassing him for his DPS. I don't really know what's happening in his head right now, but it does to me look like he leaves a key that is at absolute worst a borderline upgrade. Yeah, and so now, especially since we see the route, I forgot, like, you don't need all the count in this area. Normally when I do this route, we have to pull this entire area. They don't, because of the route they do. So, oh yeah, okay, this is definitely in time. This definitely would have been in time if this guy stayed. We have to go back, like the warrior says, hunter left. Shaman says, we finish. He did no damage. They're still bashing on this guy. Win, try 4, meaning like, let's just continue at 4. We can still actually upgrade it. And the warrior agrees. He says, just finish though. XD 4 is no problem. So they are going to fight the last boss with 4 minutes and 50 seconds left. No bloodlust coming up, and 4 players on a tyrannical 10. Now is the time for you to pause the video and in your head make a mental note of who do you think makes a mistake on this fight. Let's watch it happen in real time. Kind of are tanking against the far edge, which I don't love, but there's still plenty of space to deal with it. And yeah, if you didn't see it, let's watch it again. Because we kind of only have this one area where we can move. The monk is moving against the wall, and then he kind of gets pinned against the wall. Bomb goes out on him. He's gonna just kind of walk against the wall and then just continue to walk against the wall right into an orb. And that is another death for the monk. That is going to cause a huge issue. Now it's not done because in tandem, the shaman is just standing over there casting, and he just doesn't get out of the breath. But he's going to onk, so he's back alive. I guess at this point we just don't have any more battle reses. Warrior's going to charge in here. He's going to get this bomb. This is dangerous, but as you see, he's again also another guy's going to walk into one of the orbs. That's going to do 50% of his health, and then the bomb's going to finish him off. From what I can tell, like, these mechanics are doing too much damage for them to actually kill this without a healer anyway. But regardless, you know, let's show it all. The shaman now again standing like really far away. Guess what? what? He is going to get breathed on yet again, and he is now dead. So everybody has died. 3 of the guys have now died to improper movement and positioning on this fight, okay? But the recording isn't over. It's not over for a while because, you know, the guy who recorded this is going to then try to solo save this fight. You're not going to solo save this with 2.5 minutes left. I don't think he believes he can either, okay? I'm going to read his comment that he sent to me when he sent this to me now. He says, a guy leaves his own key when it's easily upgradable. Then we try to 4-man the last boss. Everyone dies except me at 80% health. I carry on soloing the boss as the timer's going to run out just for fun at first, but then the other guys get real mad and start flaming me. They start saying that I'm holding them hostage and that they are reporting me as I'm griefing and it is a bannable offensive. I wonder what you make of it all. Is this a bannable offense? Am I an asshole for doing this? Let me know your thoughts. So I want to know your thoughts too, all right? And this is, like I said, the conversation we were having about tanks being too strong, quote unquote. First of all, do you think the tank nerfs are addressing this? Do you think the tank nerfs after addressing this are going to stop this? And do you think it should be addressed and stopped? Personally, I say absolutely not, okay? Anybody who has tried to do it before knows it takes very long. Like, this group is aware of it too. That's why they're flaming him, quote unquote. But the fact that it's possible means he has a shot at it. We have many high profile clips on this channel of me doing it and succeeding at it, potentially upgrading keys. And we also have many clips where I try to do it and people start yelling at me for doing it, even though me doing it gives us a shot at upgrading the key, where wiping will never give us a shot at upgrading the key. And that's what this comes down to. We have this us versus them situation we discussed. Some of the comments I just want to read out just to be totally like forthright on what's actually happening. The monk does say try again, spelling it wrong. The shaman says tank, just die. This might lead me to believe that they are actually willing to do it a second time. Usually if somebody's willing to do it a second time, I would definitely give them the opportunity to do it. The monk says dead tank, which is not accurate. The monk says laugh out loud. Well played. OMG. Warrior says dude. The monk says proficienality. I don't know what. This has got to be some kind of other language. The shaman then says this isn't a flex, by the way. You're a death knight. It's literally your job. A very weird comment. Makes me think like this is like a battle of the ego at this point. Like this guy is now offended that somebody else is able to do this and they were not able to. The warrior kind of accurately says this will legit be 10 minutes XD, and yeah, this is going to take really long. He says I can do this on my paladin as a tank and do more damage, says the shaman. It really isn't a flex. And who said anything about flexing? I don't know how these people are like trying to ascribe this immediately just because he wants to try to solo save it. Shaman says, well, that's another player on my ignore list now. Monk says all capitals tank. Warrior says literally hostage. Monk says you rely more time. Shaman says, can we report for griefing? I think we can. He says, yeah, report for griefing. Okay, good luck with it. Warrior says, yeah, you can. When time goes by, the shaman says, reported for griefing now. Took him a while to figure it out. Warrior then says, dude, this is a 19-minute fight with your current DPS. Please stop trolling. Shaman says, again, sometime later, he says, did you report for griefing, healer? Bob and I have. The monk just answers with report? Question mark. Like, well, he doesn't know what that means, I guess. Shaman says, yeah, this is griefing. It's an actual bannable offense. The monk puts a plus sign, which I guess means he agrees or something like that. Warrior says, yep, holding people hostage in game is actually something they are quite harsh on. Monk says, okay, I go see YouTube XD. Loss, all caps, LOSS keys. Maybe he means his car. Oh, he probably means he's got to go find his car keys. So he's going to just get up and go do that now. This guy finishes another 15 minutes of this fight. They've totally changed their tune all of a sudden. The warrior now says combat res healer at least. Now that's the guy who went to go look for his keys. He's not even here. Try to pay attention to the actual mini map when all this happens up here on the top right. So he's going to take the res and then he's immediately just gonna leap over behind like the whole area where you normally would walk into the room. At this point, he's just gonna stay there for a little bit, so I can only assume he's hearthing. I believe he just got pulled back into the boss at that point because now he's back underneath the boss and he is again moving towards the outside of the room. This time he's not going as far, so he's gonna charge back in. He's now gonna get the energy bomb and spell reflect it, so he's like suddenly trying to do the encounter again, I guess maybe because he's failing to be able to hearth. At this point, he again leaps around away really, really far, I guess, because he knows that he can't be pulled in again at this moment. He's effectively outplayed the mechanics, and he is going to successfully get his Hearthstone off, or seemingly at least. Like, his dot was there and now it's gone. So I have to assume that means he was able to actually Hearth, and he then types, I am free, dot, 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 and leaves the party. So that's the whole thing. Let me give my thoughts on it, and then I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. So again, he says, everybody except me dies at something like 80% HP. And yeah, that's pretty much exactly when they die. The monk had been playing really poorly in the last 2 fights. So one way or the other, it's over at that point. So the question is, should you wipe it there or should you continue? Honestly, that's up to you. Like, if you value finishing the key more than you value what these guys have to say about you, then you weigh that, you know? Is it selfish? Yeah, absolutely. But frankly, they didn't play well enough to survive the fight. So you didn't kill them. You know what I mean? They died. Dying to that boss at that point is a courtesy to them. And I think you probably should extend that courtesy to them unless you needed it for the vault or you definitely wanted to get loot from it. Because realistically, if you die at that point when there's not even 5 players in the group, you're probably not finishing this dungeon. But you should know that doing 80% of a fight, this is going to take like maybe up to 20 minutes. Like, it can take an incredibly long time. So he says, like, it was just for fun at this point. Like, yeah, I don't really buy that. Like, you can't really say that's why you're doing it. If it's just for fun, then you can just let them leave and then you can go solo it on your own after that. Like, that's the better way to approach it if it is just for fun. So he says they get real mad and start flaming him. I would not say that they're flaming you, honestly, but yeah, obviously they're very mad, and I think this is really just an ego thing. And I think this comes back to the topic about getting tanks nerfed and the weird mob mentality I see around this topic. These guys would probably be in this thread saying this exact thing that I've seen people say about this topic. They want tanks nerfed because they believe tanks are too powerful and they are holding them hostage, right? In this case, like, again, I gotta remind you, like, you guys died to the fight, right? The monk died. I get it. The 2 DPS are probably not going to live through it anyway, but he's not holding you hostage. You failed to do the encounter. He didn't. That's all it comes down to at the end of the day. So getting the tank nerfed for this specific reason is really the dumbest thing you could ever say. Like, this is just really, really, really stupid to say this out loud. If you think this specific situation needs to be addressed from Blizzard, there's way better ways to handle it. Them nerfing tanks so they're less able to do this is one thing, but if you think like it shouldn't be allowed at all, which I have seen commented, you're just lying to yourself, man. There's opportunities for the tank to save the group. It can literally be an upgrade because of his ability to do it. In this case, it's never going to be, because again, 1 player left. It probably wasn't going to be even if the monk didn't walk into a ball. But if you say like, I never want a tank to do this, you're just saying I want to succeed less. This is not a competitive mindset, and as such should not be considered for competitive content. Now, specifically the holding them hostage thing, and then the warrior and shaman saying that he will get banned and that they take this very serious. This is absolute nonsense. This is not what griefing is. He is doing an encounter that you all signed up for. You all agreed to enter this dungeon and do it. The problem is, like, everybody has a different expectation of what that might mean. Some people might, like, maybe the hunter thinks like, oh, if it's not a double upgrade, I'm leaving, right? People look at that as like a legitimate way to play the game for some reason. Maybe the tank's way to play the game is I will finish this dungeon at all costs, at the cost of the group in this case, you know? There's nothing about this that is breaking any terms of service, and no, obviously Blizzard is not going to ban you for solo saving a fight as a blood DK. You can go ahead and do it. You can report somebody for literally anything, but nothing is going to happen. I can prove this. We literally made a video on this 3 weeks ago now, and guess what? Those guys are still walking around scot-free. So he says, I wonder what you make of it all. Is it a bannable offense? Absolutely not. Nobody's ever going to get banned for anything they do inside of a mythic dungeon unless it's chat related. Am I the asshole for doing that? Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, right? You kind of are. You're going to make these guys sit here and watch this really kind of pointless solo save for 20 minutes. And I think that mentality is exactly what a lot of DPS and healers are looking to get nerfed. Unfortunately, you're not going to do that. Blood DK is simply always going to be able to do this. Like, this is not even hard for them to get that like minor nerf that they got. It's not even going to put a dent on the situation. Tanks are always going to be like this, and guess what? That's a good thing, because apparently there's a tank shortage. I don't believe it. People say it all the time. Whether it's true, I don't know. Guess what? The best way to solve a tank shortage, make it a really appealing role for people who are on the fence about which role to play. Guess what? You're complaining as a damage dealer that you're being held hostage does. Makes people play tanks less. Do you want that as the damage dealer? Do you want your tank to be weaker so he can't potentially help you succeed? Do you want there to be less tanks so your queue times are longer? I don't know why you would want that. Somehow you do, though. People keep saying they want that. So anyway, yeah, this one was really an interesting topic. It was submitted at the exact right time to conversate on this. So let me know what you guys think. We will be back. Pre-patch is now going to be out as of today, hopefully tonight. I will be back tomorrow streaming, and then I plan on keeping, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday streaming on live, testing out the tank changes in the Season 4 Dragonflight Mythic Plus dungeons as a Blood Death Knight. So thank you for watching. We will see you guys in the next one. I look forward to reading your comments down below.